Your Iowa Hawkeyes just made a giant move today in the depth chart, heading on to week 2 in the Cy-Hawk battle. Happy Labor Day, everyone. My name's Landon Rank. I'm a diehard Iowa Hawkeye fan. Make sure to like and subscribe for some daily Iowa Hawkeyes content. Today, we're going to go through the depth chart for this week against Iowa State, while also talking a little bit about some previous Iowa State games. I ran and crunched all the numbers of the averages for the last Iowa versus Iowa State games over the last couple of years. So let's jump right into it. This is Landon Talks About Hawks.
Touchdown Iowa! Down the sideline, goodbye! Touchdown Iowa! For the end zone, the Heat will win! Touchdown Iowa!
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, so we are going to take a look into the Hawkeye depth chart going into week 2 versus Iowa State, at Iowa State. Man, I have not seen this yet, so let's check out the offense. We're going to go bit by bit and then look at it overall. So starting out at the wide receiver, number 2 position is Sam Phillips. Again, obviously he's our wide receiver 2 with Reese Vanderzee out. He's technically the wide receiver 1. And then Dayton Howard, surprisingly making the depth chart this week. I don't believe he was on there last week as our backup for that slot. I believe that's the right side of the field with Sam Phillips. Tight end, obviously, Addison Orstringa and Zach Ortworth. That doesn't surprise us at all. Hayden Large, left tackle, Trevor Locke, Jack Dutzler, Bo Stevens, Leighton Jones, Logan Jones, and Michael Myslinski. Cade Pieper and Cale Winters, Jennings Dunker, Seth Anderson, and Caden Weegan fill out the wide receiver room. So looking pretty good. Basically, same wide receiver room as last week, but here is the question. Jacob Gill and KJ Parker also make that spot. So that wide receiver room looking deep. Again, Mark Gronowski is the starter again this week. Not a surprise to see that. Hank Brown there, but here is where it gets interesting. I think I just saw the name, and this is really surprising, but the starting running back for this week that the Iowa Hawkeyes are shaking it up after we got to see the man, Kamari Morton, get injured. Terrell Washington is the starter for this week with Xavier Williams, Jacuzzi, and Patterson behind, and we might see more of Michael McNeil. So you never know what we're going to see, but Terrell Washington surprising the Hawkeyes by being the starting running back this week. Your Iowa Hawkeyes just absolutely shook it up because out of those 3 running backs that we saw last weekend, Terrell Washington didn't even have the most yards. It was Xavier Williams. So Xavier Williams will not get the start. Expect to see a really good dose of him, but the Iowa Hawkeyes just truly shaking it up. On the defensive possession, no really big differences. Max Llewellyn, Aaron Graves, Bryce Hoffern, Ethan Herkett, Zach Lutzmore, Conan Stringer at that second cash. It's going to be important for covering the Iowa State wide receivers, Jackson Rexworth, Jaden Harrell, Carson Stroud, TJ Hall, Conan Stringer, Xavier Wampa, looking good, Deshaun Lee, again, Drew Stevens, Reese Dakin, all in the specialists. But again, that offense really surprising me was seeing Terrell Washington Jr., the sophomore, and it's really nice to see this young Iowa running back room. I believe we'll get to have all 3 of these guys come back next year unless one of them transfers. So really nice to see a very nice young Iowa group that can continue to play better in the future. So that's really great news to see as an Iowa Hawkeye fan. This lineup change to put Terrell Washington in. Terrell Washington has played great over the years at the Hawkeyes. We'll look at some highlights of him in a second, who's going to be our starting running back this week. But let's talk more about this Iowa State-Iowa rivalry. Alrighty, so this is a interesting stat, but over today on my Labor Day as I got school off, I pulled up every single Iowa versus Iowa State game since 2017 when Matt Campbell became the head coach. And one thing that we looked at is I took every single score from each quarter by quarter and put it together and put the averages for each score and each final score, put it all together and wrote some notable stats. And as we can see in the first quarter, Iowa has always, all time, combined points, Iowa's put up 27 points against the Cyclones in the last 7 games, which is since 2017. The Cyclones have only put up 20. So Iowa outscoring Iowa State by at least a touchdown, and those bring those averages to about 3.9 points. In the first, Iowa State only with 2, so both teams about a field goal length. We look at the second quarter, Iowa very much outscoring the Cyclones 41-16. This was Iowa's second highest scoring quarter and Iowa State's lowest. The Hawkeyes averaging about 5.9 points and the Cyclones averaging about 2.8. It's about a touchdown for the Hawkeyes. Third quarter, Iowa scoring about a touchdown. Iowa State scoring about a touchdown, 42-35. But the fourth quarter is where Iowa gets outscored by the Cyclones, 37-47 all time since 2017. And that's an average of 5.2 to 6.7. Now, obviously, the Hawkeyes would have the best final score, but an average final score of the Iowa State games to a 22.7 win for the Hawkeyes and a 17.2 point loss for the Cyclones. So looking at this, Iowa has outscored Iowa has outscored Iowa State. Obviously, some notable stuff I put down. Iowa has not scored in the fourth quarter since 2021. Iowa State has not scored in the first quarter since 2021. Iowa State has not scored a touchdown in the first quarter since 2019, and the Iowa Hawkeyes have not scored a touchdown in the fourth quarter since 2019. So some things that both teams can work on. As you can see, Iowa has this first half down. If you put the first half down, the Hawkeyes would win. If you put the second half down, the Cyclones would win by just 2 points. So we look at these stats and we say, watch the Hawkeyes get out to a hot start against the Cyclones. Iowa State better be ready for it. We have some great film to break down later on this week. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. We're going to talk tomorrow about some Terrell Washington highlights. We're going to kind of go back and look at some of Mark Gronowski's plays. We're going to look into the Cyclones plays. We're going to look through all of it. And then later on this week, Wednesday, Thursday, we're going to go over the past history of the games. We're going to rewatch some games like the 2017 game, 2019 game, 2021 game, some games that the Hawks won, but also watch what they've done bad in the last 2 out of 3 years to lose the game at home. We're going to go through this Cy-Hawk series, break it down. I hope if you're watching in Iowa, you're continuing to show your Hawkeye pride every single day. Go Hawks. We'll see you tomorrow.